Hey everybody, welcome to the final day of the 2017 ICC Open. We have 4 finalists remaining. Semi-final matchups right now. Federico Perez Ponza of Argentina is playing Altay Safarli. And in the other matchup, it's Ali Morandi from Turkey playing against Vladislav Artemiev. And these matches are 10 games, 5 games of 3-minute chess and 5 games of 3-minute with 2-second increment. So the first game we're going to follow right now is Perez Ponza against Safarli. Here we go. Perez Ponza playing white, and looks like we have a Spanish over here. All the big names have been eliminated, so if you were betting, you could probably make a good case that any player left has a shot at winning. There's no clear favorite, although in terms of experience, probably Perez Ponza and Safarli have both been in this tournament on ICC the most and have finished well. Perez Ponza has even been to the finals, I believe. So, but he is the underdog here by FIDE rating. Yesterday he beat Jeffrey Shang to in the quarterfinals to reach the semifinals. So wasn't an easy road. Safarli had to win in tie breaks himself. And it looks like Black has managed to use some tactics, playing a bit of a sideline. As you can tell, he's up already 30 seconds with Black, which usually means White, might be recalling theory or a bit outside of his comfort zone here. Now he's up. That's just an exchange. It looks like Perez Ponza blundered in the opening. He's down an exchange. He's got 2 bishops. I think one of his ideas is to use that bishop on c1 to go to h6 to stop Black from castling. Black probably is going to castle on the king side, if anything, because the queen side's already been weakened with this b5 maneuver. So he's figuring out what to do now. You're up in exchange, but there are still a lot of pieces on the board, and you do have to be pretty precise. It makes the position a lot easier to play for White by being down in exchange. Want to remind everybody the first prize is $4,200. Every player left is winning at least 1,000, so they can be happy with that. But there is still a lot to play for. And knight f6. So bishop h6 isn't quite a possibility here because of the g4 pawn, which is hanging. But there's still 2 bishops in open lines, queen c3. And the idea is after knight takes g4, White just responds with the cool f3 move. And then the knight has to move away, and then queen takes e5, and it looks like all the dark squares will be weak. So Safarli is going to have to go on the defense here. He can't take any more material. He's got his material, and now it's about getting that king safe. Yeah, today the games are completely live. We managed to fix that, so it should be a better viewing experience. And we'll see the time scrambles in real time. So after b4, I mean, when you look at this position, it's up and down in exchange, but the rook on a8 is not a big player in the game right now. In terms of who has more pressure, who has the initiative, it's entirely in White's favor. So Federico is doing a great job of putting pressure, keeping it complicated, and avoiding an endgame. The c-file is good. His bishops are great on d3 and e3. They control a lot of squares. Black is extremely passive here, and I definitely prefer White's position, both on the clock and on the board. And g5, a big move to try to break down this pawn chain. Now e5 is weak. The question is, can you get to e5? d6 is a possibility here. Bishop g5. I think d6 there looked like it really broke through the position, if I'm not mistaken. So a bit of a miss there, but he's up 20 seconds. Keep in mind, there's no increment in this time control the first 5 games. So if you get low on the clock, you are not coming back from that. Rook e6 maybe, queen takes e5. Looks pretty promising, although then there's rook e8. Rook e8 now. Rook e8, there was maybe queen h8 check. That was the point. Here, queen takes g5. But the point is, black plays queen g7 so the king can run back over to g8 and back into safety. White, in the meantime, should try to bring that bishop maybe to e6, if possible. So Farley playing pretty quickly and playing some pretty good moves. I have to say, I do think Perez Ponza has let a lot of his advantage slip. And now with 30 seconds each, I mean, this is anybody's game. Unless there's a checkmate for White. I don't see any checkmate. Now preparing rook to h4 check. Rook h4 check, king g3. Queen takes g5. Rook h5. Okay, no, this is just going to be a time scramble. It looks like neither side could really find a checkmate here. Now it's just going to be about bullet. Black's up to exchange in a rook and an exchange, but you do have those pawns, which are pretty dangerous. d6. I mean, all right, good pre-move by Perez Pawns. Who's going to win this one? Yeah, push that pawn. I think this is in White's favor. He's up a full second here, and he's got the pre-moves going. He's got that pass pawn keeping the rook honest. Push the pawn, and he gets the queen. Oh, White is taking this game. He won that time scramble. That game, I mean, you know, that splits for you. You get down to 20 seconds each, and anybody pretty much can win from a sharp position like that. So Perez Ponza takes the first game. That was a pretty crazy game. I think the opening, somehow he turned an unfamiliar position into a nice attacking. He is a very aggressive player. His games against Jeffrey Chong yesterday were very exciting, and he managed to play down an exchange but have a lot of compensation. 2 bishops, open line. So he takes the lead in that match. And in the other game, let's see what happened in the other game. It was a win for Artemiev over Ali Morandi. So Artemiev takes the lead, and now let's follow game 2 in this match. Let's go right here. So Farley has White. The format is I might switch next game to the other match going on because we only have two semifinals. But I want to see how Farley reacts after losing that game when he played badly, then he defended well, then he was winning, and then he just lost that bullet phase of the game. What I want to say is I think all the players in the field remaining are good at bullet, and bullet is a key part of 3-0 Blitz online. When there's no increment, it really is some pre-moving, guessing the pre-moves, making tricky moves, throwing in checks, and all these players are pretty. They're not going to be flagged easily, so it's hard to make a clear pick over there. There's nobody who's really weak. White, though, for his part here, has 2 bishops. Is ready to play g4, g5. He's just trying to attack. He's up already a good, healthy 25 seconds. Black is. I don't like Black's position. It just looks a bit ugly with that bishop on b7. The only way to open it is to play c5. Black doesn't want to play c5 because it opens up White's d file potentially. So Farley here has a very nice position to attack. Black's gonna have to figure out something. I mean, you can consider playing b4. That's something to always consider, b4 to sacrifice a pawn for the a file and to sort of try to stop the initiative. Because here, he's played b4. White's probably gonna play a4, rather not open up the position. Let's get some coffee. It's going to be about 3.5 hours of, or maybe more if there's tie breaks, of blitz. So get ready. Rook h3, rook g3, a very common rook lift. Queen e7 here might be recommended to force White to move the bishop to protect the a3 pawn. Yep, that's a good move. The bishop doesn't have any. I don't want to move my bishop on d3. I was very happy with it there. It's a concession. Oh, some tactics here. Knight takes d7. Can you take on a3? Safarli says. I mean, Perez Ponza said no, you can't. Wait. So black had to recapture on d7 because after queen a3, king b1, there were no more checks except on c3, which was protected by the bishop. So now rook g3, king h8. I'm expecting something potentially like queen e5 or h5, h5, h6. Looks like a good way to try to push. But this is going to get very sharp. I don't see a clear attack for white. Black can play f6, can play g6, can defend. What it means is both sides are going to have weak kings, and it's going to be who sort of, balances out attack and defense the best. Definitely still prefer white always, 2 bishops. Black's bishop on b7, still a bit of a spectator. For one thing, the bishop isn't very good behind the pawn, and for another thing, it's actually on the b file, which blocks black from putting a rook on the b file, which is where you want to have a rook to try to checkmate. I wouldn't be surprised to see h6 here. That would be a sort of crazy move, but very aggressive. Otherwise, okay, bishop c4, just safe, protect a3. Safarli doing a good job right now, but he's going to have to play a bit quicker. He's definitely going to have to play a bit quicker in this position. He has control. He has the easier moves, and he should be the one up on time. Bishop takes a5. Yes. He goes for an endgame. He picks up that pawn. He's ready to play bishop b4, blocking the b file, protecting a3. And now I definitely can say white has a pretty big edge. Safarli has a winning position. Bishop b4. He's winning in exchange now. f6. A bad move. Simply a bad move. He loses in exchange. Altash Safarli here is going to be up a pawn and an exchange. And he's got a little time cushion on Perez Ponza. So maybe rook c3. Maybe try to, rook b3 also works. Improve the queen on, actually queen takes e6 there looked pretty good. I just realized queen e6 was possible. So either way, that rook on d1 is probably going to go to e1 next move, and he's going to attack e6 anyways. This position is dead lost. That's for sure. This should definitely be a dead lost position. Queen e6 looks good. Rook e1 looks good. Taking that piece looks good. Well, I am very shocked by what he has just done. It still might work after c4, but this was the riskiest way to do it ever. Queen a1, king c2, rook a2, king d3. And that is just a crazy position. What's going on here? Rook a2, king d3, d takes c4, king takes c4, and there's no more... I don't know how to evaluate that, guys, but this, I wouldn't feel very comfortable if I was playing white here. The problem is Perez Ponza has gone down to under 10 seconds trying to checkmate his opponent here, and that's not enough time. I don't think that's going to be enough time. He's got 6.8 seconds to checkmate Safarli. Safarli sacrifices his queen because he's got rook b8 checkmate, and that will be the game. That was a bit too close to comfort in my opinion, but it worked out in the end. Maybe it was very smart, but that means Safarli equalizes the match 1-1 over there. The other game, Artemiev Morandi, was a draw. We're going to move over to that match. So in Safarli, Perez Ponza is 1-1, and in Morandi, Artemiev has 1.5. He did win the first game. We're going to jump into that game right now. Ali Morandi, I believe a freshman student at St. Louis University, originally from Turkey, represents Turkey, made it through the qualifiers, made it through the knockout yesterday, and he is really showing his blitz skills. He's past a few tournaments on ICC. So c3 Sicilian here. Pretty easy to play. Pretty decent opening in blitz, in my opinion. b5, I think white's preparing queen f3. White clearly has a bit of a lead in development in terms of pieces, but we'll see. We'll see if he can use that. Hard for black to develop here. Can't play b5 again, or b6. Knight c6 is going to be pretty lethal. Definitely a good setup here. I think by white, it's a pretty serious bind. Good bishops. Rook's going to d1 next move. A lot of pressure on the setup here. And now e5. I think that's a pawn sacrifice, just to free up some space, make development easier. And I definitely like that decision. So black's got the two bishops. He is down a pawn though, and a full pawn. So while there's not full compensation, it is blitz, and it made his position a lot easier to play. So there was some logic there. White on his part definitely needs to improve that knight on a3. Bishop on c4, knight on d4, doing a good job. But that knight on a3 needs to find a square, and the rook on a1 is probably gonna go find a square as well. Yeah. But white doing well here. Maybe bishop b3 here, knight c4, and then that knight has a clear route to the center, and maybe bishop g4. This was the advantage of sort of sacrificing. At least you got the bishop pair as black, and some comp. f3. Okay, that's a bit of a concession, but it does win some time. Maybe bishop d7 here. Black does have some targets. On the other hand, white's knight is going to e5, and that's going to really make the bishop on b3 look pretty effective. There's also rook e5 or queen d6 in this case. He just wants to go into an endgame, saying, look, I'm up a pawn, I'm up 45 seconds. There's no risk here. I'm just in a great position. I was paying attention to the blitz move so much, I just drank my coffee out of the wrong. I just spilt it all over myself. So that means the games are pretty good. So I mean, a 50-second time disadvantage here, and the pawn. Pretty much at this point, if you're Artemiev, you have to play super fast. I mean, you have to get rid of that lead. There's no chance you're going to come back from already a bad position when you're down a minute, unless you're just banking on a blunder. But you are going to get flagged. Rook takes a6 is going to be a second pawn. Okay, first tf1. I mean, Ali Miranda here is looking like he's in great shape. Rook takes a6. Okay, instead he just minimizes risks, gets rid of black's bishop pair. He says, look, I'll take the a6 pawn later, but I'm going to keep my great bishop on d5. It's an outpost supported by my e4. I'm up 3 protected pass pawns on the queen side. This is about as lost gets, guys. It will require a miracle to come back from this when there's nothing threatening white at all. And e takes f5, preparing f6 check. That's why the bishop on d5 was not on priest. So this is unless a blunder happens, this is going to be a tied match. Maybe rook f2, something solid. He just takes the pawn. He says, look, after rook b2, I'll play king h3. And I'm going to checkmate you. Instead of trying to convert this like a normal game, I'm just going to double the rooks. Oh, no, bishop g7. I believe the right way to do that was to actually double the rooks on the 7th rank. That would have been a forced checkmate if I'm not mistaken. So a bit of a slip up there, but it's 16 seconds for black, and he's still in a hopeless situation. Yeah, and now a5, push the pawn to a6, take the 7th rank with rook c7. Oh, that's actually... that rook was hanging. I think we all missed that. That game is over. Ali Morandi with a pretty big C3 Sicilian win. So if you're a fan of that opening, you know it's not the most common. It's nice, a nice victory for White over there. And how did the other match go? Let's jump right into it as well. Perez pawns and Safarli in a time scramble, but Perez pawns it down 12 seconds and down in position. That A2 pawn should be enough for Safarli to convert. He's got a queen. Uh-oh. That is brings the king to f6. Anywhere. This is going to be a win for Safarli. He should just sacrifice, or he's playing a little bit slow here for 3-0. Oh, and there we go. Now it's forced checkmate for black. Okay. Safarli takes the lead 2-1 in that match, and Artemiev Morandi is 1.5 each. We're going to follow the fourth game in the match between Artemiev and Morandi this time. The last game was decisive, and that means Artemiev will have white and a chance to equalize. It is a 10-game match, so nobody's in trouble yet, but I think for a lot of the players, you know, this is the nice time control to come back, because after 5 games, the players switch to 3-minute plus 2-second increment time control. And that means the games are a bit more controlled. The chess is sometimes at a higher quality, or it's supposed to be, and it's all, you know, it's but it's more controlled. It's harder to come back sometimes. The games are, there's going to be more games that are solid in that case. I mean, when you play 3 minutes and 0-second increment, somebody's going to run out of time at some point. It's just for sure the case. 3 minutes and 2 seconds, I mean, that you can play on forever, and it makes a big difference. So these are 10-game matches each. Once again, so I think 10-game match, 5.5 points, guys, will advance to the finals. And here Artemiev has taken a pawn, and he can just take on e7 here and take back on d4. He'll be up a pawn there. But black will then have the move bishop d3 at the end of that variation. So that's why he took back with the queen rather than the pawn, because then bishop d3 would have stopped white from castling, which would have been extremely annoying. In this case, white is up a pawn here. It's nice that the bishop is on f4, controlling the b8 square, otherwise black would take the b file. But in this case, it's all about Artemiev converting this pawn up position, getting his pieces out, controlling black's counterplay. Because even though you're pawn up here, there are so many pieces on the board. There's also the presence of opposite bishops. It's hard to actually exchange things. And as you can see from the position, black has a great knight on c5. It's coming to d3, maybe e4. Black's bishop on f5 is effective. You've got the c file. So black is a very active position for being down a pawn, and you know that means still anything can really happen. We've seen a lot of games change throughout the course of the middle game or end game over here. Yeah, because once the players get low on time, everyone blunders. Pretty much everyone in the world, for the most part. So now black playing rook d8, preparing to open up the d file and hit that queen on d4, which is still looking for a safe square, a solid outpost. Let me know in the chat who you guys think is going to win, or who is your favorite player. I'm pretty curious. It's a nice chance to showcase some very good blitz players who may not be super grandmasters, but play a lot of blitz, play exciting blitz, and have a chance to win a pretty good prize. We have 4 countries remaining, right? Turkey, Russia, Argentina, and Azerbaijan. Queen c7. That is a clutch move. The idea is, if you're going to lose, if you're white, I'm losing my rook on f1, then you're going to lose your rook on d8. So now that would favor white because he is up a pawn. Okay, they've gone into a rook end game with a double isolated pawns. I might have been mistaken, by the way. I have to confirm. I know the finals are 10 games. So I will get confirmation on that. I am looking at both the chat. I'm looking on ICC. I'm looking on YouTube. Ah, it's actually a 4-game match. I did not know that. I thought it was 10 games. My bad. So the finals are 10 games. This is 4 games. So this is a must-win situation for Artemiev. No, it's a must-win situation for Perez Ponza. So that means I'm going to jump to their game pretty soon. This game looks like there's very good drawing chances. I'm going to leave that game and I'm going to go to the other one. That game looks like it might go to tiebreak. But here, Perez Ponza with black. He's got to come up with something. He's down 20 seconds. His pawns are in the wrong color. And he does need to win to equalize the match. So sorry for the misunderstanding. And now he hangs a piece. Looks like Safarli is advancing here, guys. But yeah, it's a four-game semifinal and a 10-game final. That's the format. Final confirmation. And it looks like our first match is over. Safarli advances past Perez Ponza in the semifinals. And Artemiev and Morandi ended in a draw, so they're headed to tiebreaks. So even though I thought it was a 10-game match, it could still be a 10-game match if they keep drawing. So they have 2 extra games. Blitz 3-0. That's the format for the tiebreak. Once again, Safarli did win, so he won the 4-game match 3-1 to advance to the semifinal. So we're just waiting for the tie breaks to start. All right, tiebreakers. Andy has white in the first game against Artemiev. In terms of FIDE ratings, I mean, Artemiev is a 200-point favorite, but in Blitz, Morandi's very good, clearly underrated, and has shown some poison with white. I mean, I really liked how he played that other game. He had a lot of pressure from the start, and here, once again, you can see white has, he's favoring open positions, playing pretty aggressively. Bishop g5, maybe queen d2 or queen e2, rook a1, something like that. Queen d2 here, I wouldn't be surprised to see all on the board. Yep. And black's given white a lot of space, so we'll see if he can do better than he did last time when he did this, because last time he had to sacrifice a pawn, if you recall. This time, well, you're facing some serious pressure here. Once rook a d1 happens, that pawn on d5 seems to control a lot of space and gives white a lot of room to work behind that pawn. Like rook 81, bishop b3, queen f4. A lot of natural moves are coming up for white if black doesn't stop this. And in blitz, whoever has the more natural moves, the easier to play position, that's a big advantage in a lot of cases. I mean, I was looking at a move like c6 or something. I mean, just something to... no. That's what I get for not calculating a lot. Maybe that pawn was just available. We'll have to see. Artemiev saying, look, that's you should have calculated that, and he might have been right. But here, after bishop takes c4, you have bishop takes g7, king g7, queen c3 check, winning that piece. If I believe white is up a piece in this line, and white is up a piece. That is what I didn't think you could take it. Neither did Morandi. A blunder there by Artemiev. He must have missed this queen c3 check, or queen takes d2, knight d2, and the bishop on c4 is hanging. But now just a clearly winning position for Ali Morandi. He's up 30 seconds. So not only did Black a lot of time calculating, that was a clear blunder, and he's going to be faced with a tough task. He's going to have to win on demand. Although we've seen crazier things happen, he has a pawn for the piece. Keep in mind, last year in the semifinals, Magnus Carlsen lost with a piece up against Alexander Grishuk. And I mean, it was a piece up. I mean, it was actually dead lost. Maybe not an endgame, but it was still pretty bad. So things can still happen, especially when the time control is 3-0. But what you do as black, you have to keep that rook on the board. You have to keep all your pawns on the board. And you have to try to entice a blunder. You have to play quickly. Just be annoying. Put up as much resistance as possible, but this is looking pretty tough. Now the rook is traded off, and now I guess maybe the king is going to h5. Yep, king h5 I expect, and that's probably going to be a resignation from Artemiev. Not quite. He wants to try a few more things. It looks like. Black does have this idea to push the f pawn and then push the b pawn, but I'm afraid that is way too slow because white will already have queen by then. So f2, so he did that first, just bishop takes b5, and probably resignation at this stage. And he has resigned. Wow, a very quick and easy win by Ali Morandi. And some opening problems for Artemiev. He's not getting good positions with black, and he's getting low on time. He's going to have to improve on that, I think. That was just too easy. The moves were too easy. Position was too easy. But we'll see. He has to win now with white on demand. Right now, Ali Morandi is up 3-2 against Artemiev, and all he needs is a draw to secure a ticket to the finals. That would be a pretty serious story. He is upset so far. Every one of his opponents. He had a pretty tough bracket. He had to play a lot of good players. There we go. They've started b3 from Artemiev. No theory. Let's just play some chess. I mean, there's a little bit of theory, but nothing serious. It keeps a lot of pieces on the board. Black replies with a fianchetto, and white plays h4. That's what we like to see in a must-win game, guys. Mix it up. Try to throw your opponent off. I mean, my impression of Artemiev has always been he's not, a big theoretician, but he's a very strong middle game player and end game player. He just understands generally where the pieces go, but in terms of openings, he, sometimes does find himself in tough positions. No, he attends St. Louis University, Ali Morandi. He's a freshman at SLU, which is a university now with a big chess program in St. Louis. And h5. And the idea is after knight h5, you can just play rook takes h5, and the knight on c6 is pinned. So there's going to be some problems along that d4 to h8 diagonal. Here, maybe knight c3 or knight f3 or knight e2. White has some good pressure here, but he's down on time. He's going to have to play a little bit quicker. He's trying to find a precise move here, like queen f3, for example. or knight c3. Trying to figure out what's the best way to set up. That bishop on d4 is great. Bishop on b5 is doing a great job of neutralizing that knight on c6. And maybe knight e2, he wants to play knight f4 next move and get ready to capture h5. Maybe knight f4. Black's idea, bishop f5. Put that bishop on g6. I like it a lot. That's exactly where the bishop belongs. Bishop to b6, g6, I expect. Yeah, it's doing a good job of reinforcing h5. You don't want to lose h5. Then your kingside might crumble. So he's being as stubborn as possible. And that bishop on g6 controls a nice diagonal all the way down to c2. White plays queen f3. Now queen d7. Looks pretty natural here. Just defend. And you don't have a lot of time to calculate. You have to pick your spots to calculate in blitz. Can't calculate every move. And instead he goes for bishop e4, a bit more of an ambitious move. I'm not sure I like it. Maybe queen h3 here, or queen g3. It seems like it just gives a tempo. I don't like that move somehow. It just seems queen d7 a bit too ambitious. We'll see. So black prepares the queenside castle, but one thing you gotta like, if you're black here, you're up 40 seconds. Up 40 seconds, and there are so many pieces on the board, which means it's really easy for white to blunder now if he continues to fall back on time. But for white's perspective, you've got lots of pieces on the board, lots of imbalances. Maybe f3 here. I think f3 is a solid move, or he goes queen h4 to put some more pressure on that knight on f6. I do expect f3 to be played at some point, and then the resulting move e4, if possible. f3 on the board. He's going to have to play a little bit quicker once again, though. e4, there we go. He finds the right plan. I think this is a very nice pawn structure. And remember, white is temporarily down a pawn. It's that h5 pawn. If white actually recaptures that pawn under good circumstances, white will have the better pawn structure in the endgame. Queen takes e7. Bishop takes here. And rook takes h5. This is a very pleasant endgame for white. He's got a better pawn structure. H and f, isolated pawns for black. Knight on c3 is going to reroute. This is a very good position. Knight e2, preparing knight d4. Maybe rook e2. Rook on h6 keeps that rook on h8 passive. This is a better endgame for white, but the time situation isn't good. And he's going to have to change something pretty quick. Because even though he got a better position, it's not one of those positions you're going to win in 40 seconds. It's a position you're going to win in 10 minutes. It's one of those slow pushes. So something radical. He's going to have to force the issue. Quite frankly, maybe bring the knight now to d4. Once again, he's probably going to play knight c2, knight d4. Yes, he is. h5 is still hanging. So rook e5, knight d4, or knight there. Okay, bishop b7. But Ali Morandi putting up very good resistance, and despite being in a worse position here, his time situation means he's definitely doing well. Okay, rook h8, knight g3. Knight g3 looked a bit more precise there. Looks like he could have kept that pawn. Now black is still even in material. And 23 seconds to a minute. b4, fixing the pawns on light squares on the queen side. A nice subtle move there. And now rook h3. Oof. Oh, that's a big move. That is a big move. Or is g6 working? It's not working. There's bishop e6 in the end. There's bishop e6 in the end. And Ali Morandi has a draw here as long as he doesn't blunder. He's up 30 seconds. He's up a pawn in the rook endgame. This is going to be a big upset. Although I shouldn't say upset based on his results, maybe. Maybe it was clear. Look at that. We're going to play rook against rook. And Ali Morandi advances 3.5, 2.5 against Vladislav Artemiev 2, advanced to the finals, and he'll be playing against Safarli. Pretty good. I mean, I have to say, I'm just impressed. I didn't get to cover his matches yesterday, but I thought he played very good defensively today, and he was up on the clock in almost every single game. He was putting pressure there consistently. So the finals, guys, is a 10-game match. It's not a 4-game match. That's the 10-game match. 5 games of blitz, 3-0, 5 games of blitz, 3-2. Which is the first time this tournament where players will be playing with increment. So get ready for the final today. Altaj Safarli against Samil Khan Ali Murad. If you want to follow him on ICC, the username for Safarli is Kresavchik. Hope I didn't pronounce it too badly. And Mirandi is last 7, just the number, Samurai. And 10-game match. Now the third and fourth place finishers were Perez Ponza and Artemiev. They won $1,000. So still a decent payday for a weekend of Blitz. So just waiting for the final here. Five-minute break, guys, until the final. So go to the bathroom, grab a coffee. 10-game match. I mean, that's going to take a while. It's going to be first to 5.5, and remember, games of the increment do take some time. So get ready for that, and let me know who do you think is going to win, Safarli or Ali Mirandi, the guy who's upsetting everybody. I mean, if you're an international master, you gotta be happy. He's representing the IMs right now. I mean, obviously he's close to Grandmaster level, but you rarely see an IM in the ICC final, and rarely see a Super Grandmaster. I mean, there's no big names. Grishuk was eliminated, Ding Liren was eliminated, Lenny Dominguez was eliminated. So it's going to be exciting to crown a new champion, anyways. That's why Blitz events are my favorite. I think they're the most exciting. More variance in the results. A lot of players are really good at Blitz that people don't know about, and a lot of upsets happen. And it's the most exciting format. Fast, still good chess. A lot of new names. It's kind of like in tennis when you see an outsider, like a top 100 player, let's say, upsetting one of the big names in a long game. In chess, doesn't happen too much unless they're playing in an open tournament. But in Blitz events, anybody can play, so you actually get to see these upsets happen, because they will happen in Blitz. Be right back. All right, guys, we're about to start. 10-game match. This is going to be good. And they've started. So, first game, Ali Morandi has white. He's been going for e4 the entire tournament. You know, he's doing well in open positions, sharp positions. He's playing pretty quickly. Seems like he's got a nice blitz repertoire. Easy to play positions. Doesn't go for a huge advantage. Just, you know, normal development. Put some pressure. And his opponents haven't had enough time to sort of deal with it. So Farley is also going for a. So we have a Spanish sort of position here, a bit of a different move order with d6. I think these lines are supposed to be better for white, if I'm not mistaken. But it is really easy to play for black. So after knight d5, can't take on e4 because rook e1. But you accept the worst position if you take on d5, as far as I remember. d5 gets hit with a4. Bit of a slightly, you know, bit of a worse position. Although maybe after queen d7, c6, fine for black. I thought white might consider taking with the pawn on d5, try to control both d7 and d6 and gain some space. I'm a little bit surprised by that. Again, he plays quickly and he makes some pretty simple threats without risking a lot. So a4, rook f1 is going to come next, and position is close to equal just because all pieces have been traded off. But white's on the preferable side, and he's up a little bit of time. He's slowly building. Been working for him so far. It's a long match, though. I think the players are just going to feel themselves out for a while. I'm not sure if they've played a lot between each other. You know, some players who played in the ICC tournament played opponents who they've played many teams. Not sure what these two they played in the past. It seems to be very equal so far. I think this game is headed to a draw. We'll see if the players play for more, but I mean, black is okay. Yeah, they've. Let's see. Are they going to agree to a draw, or are they going to play on? They have drawn it. Okay, first game draw. And no conclusions can be drawn yet. Long match, and I didn't see any big opportunities missed. I think white could have played more ambitiously in the opening, for sure. But what he did was also no risk and pretty simple, and maybe he was just testing Safarli out. So now Safarli going for e4 and a French, a Tarash actually. I've lost a game before to Safarli on the black side of this. So I know he knows the opening pretty well. So in these positions, black has the isolated pawn, but as compensation, he's got great activity, just great activity. Knight goes back to d3, I guess. But yeah, white wants to, you know, get a more technical position where you can, you know, blockade the isolated pawn, slowly trend towards an endgame, and you know, play against the isolated pawn. It's pretty much the entire position. That's the strategical goal. Whereas black, okay, here he's offering a trade, but he's not going to trade everything off. When you have an isolated pawn, you do want to use activity, improve your rooks, and see what counterplay you can come up with. So g4, that's ambitious. By the way, look at the time for Morandi. I mean, he spent almost no time so far. So even though his position might be a little bit worse already, he's playing quick enough that he's hoping at some point, you know, Safarli will lose the advantage when he has to play a bit faster. So king g2, I mean, the knight on f6 doesn't have any squares to go to, so maybe queen d6, you want to put the knight to d7. Maybe knight d7, knight f8, knight e6 is a good improvement for that knight on f6 right now. The downside is white's diagonal is pretty strong right now. After g6, that bishop on d4 is a great diagonal. Probably bishop d4 again. Feel him out. Okay. Well, he wants the queen on d7, so black can't play knight d7. Maybe that is a good plan. I'm not sure. Knight e4, big move. Oh, wow. I did not see that, neither did Safarli. The point is, after f e4, d e4, that knight is pinned, and that solves a lot of black's problems. And keep in mind the g4 pawn is hanging. That is a big move. That's going to put Safarli in the tank, in the think tank. That might just have switched the position entirely. Now, I mean, the king side is looking a little bit weak for... why not knight takes... Why can't you do knight takes b7 there? Knight takes b7, queen a6, and then rook e2 check. That was tactics. But anyways, black should certainly be okay at this moment because white's king isn't safe. Black's got a good bishop, a good queen. And even though the knight's good on d4, after a move like a6 here, I think black can always challenge that knight with bishop e6 and trade it off or kick it away from that square. So black is completely okay here. He's up on time. I definitely prefer black. And yeah, that was a big tactic there, knight e4, to fix a lot of his problems. Queen f4 slowly invading among using the weaknesses that white created to come into his position. Queen g3 trying to get into an endgame. Although, as I said, black is okay in an endgame. You can trade queens here, play bishop e6, and that rook is going to e2. So after rook d1, you can take on d4, play rook e2 as an example. Is he going for it? He probably, and he's going for it. Rook e1 check, king moves up, rook e2. And this is actually just simply a better endgame for black. He's up a pawn. He's up on time. So Ali Morandi really impressing so far. Impressive. So he's got an outside pass pawn here. G5, a big move to sort of restrict black's king from coming in to support the pawns. But nevertheless, having that passed pawn on the A file means that white's rook at some point is going to have to relinquish his position. A3. He's waiting for a2 then to play rook a8, but at some point black should be able to free up the king. So I'm thinking a2 followed by rook b2. Oh, instead he's going to go rook b6 to play rook a6. And I do not see a way to stop that. a2. No, that is lost. Ali Morandi, rook b6, and now either rook a6 or rook b1. Rook b1, and a resignation is going to happen here. Wow. Wow. Not quite yet, but this is... that's a serious result. Winning with black. He's been doing great with white, but that was pretty flawless. That was pretty flawless. What can I say? Wow, he takes the lead. 1.5 for Ali Morandi from Turkey. The Cinderella story. One of the lowest rated players in the original 32 is now winning in the finals after 2 games. 10-game match, long way to go, but that was a very impressive win. Technique was good, tactics were good, time management, fantastic. His time management so far has been really impressive. What is e5? Is that a slip? Is that a mouse slip? e5. It looks like, guys, looks like we just had a mouse slip or some sort of, I'm not sure what that was. I am not sure what that was, but he is now down a pawn after a fantastic move, a fantastic game. He just messed up the opening. Clearly, he thought his opponent was going to play something else. He pre-moved, he did something, but down an entire center pawn right now. That's a double pawn, but as a center pawn, it controls a lot of squares. It gives black a lot of space. This is a horrible position for white, and that's why he's down 30. He's already down on time for the first time this match because he doesn't know what to do. His position, it's very depressing to have such a bad position with white. Less than 10 moves in. But that last game was very impressive. If he can continue playing at that level, this is going to be very tough to deal with long term. Now black wins the bishop pair, undoubled. He's freed up e7 pawn. That can go to e5, bishop f5. This is lost. This is absolutely lost. So Farley's got to just play confidently here. d3 pawn is going to fall pretty soon. Maybe knight e5 at some point. But that's a bit unfortunate. Spoiling a big win with some sort of mouse slip or something. And okay, this game's not over yet. Definitely can't say it's over for Blitz, but pawn up. and a better position. Anyways, it's going to be a steep hill to climb for white. Rook e1. I guess he's going for an endgame and hoping, look, you have an extra pawn, but it is doubled, and maybe in some endgames that won't be enough. One thing we've been seeing following Randy, he's hardly been down material. I mean, he's been playing a pretty clear brand of chess. Doesn't go for crazy complications. He found a nice tactic last game, but he plays pretty standard direct moves. Plays in the center, puts his pieces, develops them quickly, and waits for mistakes. He's been taking advantage of mistakes all the time. He's been putting his opponents in time pressure and taking advantage of that. So this is another game. He's now up on time. When you're down at material, at least win on time. Win that sort of race. You need some factors on your side. So here, I'm not sure I'd go into an end game as white, but yeah, the idea is black's extra pawn might not result in a winning end game. This f4 pawn. Definitely the middle game has improved in white's favor. I mean, before it was really bad when black had two bishops. One of the problems here for black is that bishop on g7 is aimed towards the c3 pawn, which is well protected, so it doesn't really do a whole lot yet. I mean, white's perfectly stable on the queen side, and now the question is h4 next move, try to play g3. We'll see, but this is going to go down to the wire. There are not a lot of pieces on the board, and so I think it's going to be a lot of maneuvering, and this is going to go down to a time scramble most likely. If black's going to convert this, it's going to take a lot more time than what they have on the clock. Black doing a good job of putting that pawn on c4, fixing the pawns on dark squares, and saying, look, eventually that dark square bishop is going to take those pawns in some positions. They're on the right color. So maybe f5 is going to be another move to add some additional pressure. Yes, he's played it. Always keep an eye on the time here, because any sort of 10-second swing is maybe worth a pawn at this stage. Maybe it's worth a pawn. Safarli going to try to play quickly. His position is easier to play. Oh, he's rerouting that bishop to g1, provoking a weakness, and then bishop c5 maybe. Definitely improving that piece dramatically. And that should put a lot of pressure on. Maybe b5 at this point. No, he's putting that knight to e5 and to d3. I like it a lot. White needs to come up with something quick, because after knight e5, oh, c4. The king has to move out, and his knight takes... Ooh, the king can't come in anymore. Very resourceful. h4, fixing the pawn on h3, praying knight g5, yes. h3 pawn is gone. That's going to be very important for black's ability to win. An outside pass pawn. But he loses h4. Uh-oh. Wow. I mean, look at this defense now. 27 seconds each. Anybody's game still. c5 looks like it might be played at some point. c5 looks like it really is close to happening. And then white might even have chances to win with the outside pawn if white takes on a5. Knight d4, check, king e5. Knights are more dangerous in time scrambles, but he loses the f3 pawn. That looks like a blunder. He could have protected that. Oh, knight d3, king e4, knight f2, king f3, now king f3. Yeah, but black's going for the a pawn. Black is going for the pawn. And can the knight stop the a pawn, because the king is not in time? Bishop, king d1, bishop b2. You got to take the knight away from its squares. a2 now, a2 gets a queen. Safarli is winning this game. King c3, the knight has to move. You can take it. Oh, all he needs, he's up on time. He doesn't need to checkmate, just needs to flag his opponent. He's up a full second. That's enough to win. Safarli is going to equalize the match. 1.5 apiece. Is he going to go for checkmate or flag? Either one wins. And Safarli wins that time scramble. He was ahead the whole game, but it got dangerously close towards the end there. Dangerously close, as you can see. Shaking his head. I mean, that was a bit too risky, but he did win in the end. So the match, 1.5 apiece. And so just when Morandi had broke serve, winning with black, Safarli replies with a win with black himself. And the next game has started. Remember, first to 5.5. That's 1.5 apiece. So still a long way to go, guys. We're seeing a lot of isolated pawn positions, sort of instructive. It does give the player with the isolated pawn a lot of activity in the middle game. Safarli here, already up 13 seconds. He's going to maybe play h3, bishop g5, queen d2, rook d1, rook d1. Some simple moves. Okay, h6 is a good move, stopping bishop g5. But yeah, he's up on time. Queen d7, maybe bishop takes h3 in some positions. Maybe not now. Okay. But we'll see. We'll have to see. Probably rook e8. It seems to me like black is totally okay, though, even though white has, all his pieces developed. The bishop on e3 is not a particularly good piece. You can't push your pawn from b4 to d5 because it gives up the knight e5. How does white make progress here? Because black is just going to improve the rooks. The longer the game goes on, usually the more of a weakness the isolated pawn is. So we'll have to see. But he is up 30 seconds, and this is a rare point where Morandi is down a lot of time. He's trying to play knight g5, I'm guessing. Or he's preparing d5. So what happens if you take and play d5? Yeah, I believe he has just one apiece. Altaj Safarli is now winning, guys. After knight e5, you just take the queen. Queen on f3 is protected, so a huge blunder by Ali Morandi. I mean, bishop b5 was extremely clear. Just planning to play d5. He somehow missed something, wins a piece. He resigns. Safarli takes the lead, 2.5. The games are opening up now. Players are making more blunders, as we can see. So, wow, that was very quick. That was very bad. That was the first time I think we've seen Ali Morandi make a big mistake, just hanging a piece. And now we're headed to the 5th game, and this is the final game, I believe, with the 3-0 time control. Second prize, first prize is $4,200. Second prize is $2,200. These guys are definitely having a successful weekend so far. And they're repeating an opening that they had in the first game of the match, which ended up being a draw. We'll see if he repeats it or plays something different. You can play f3 here, rook e1. You have lots of options. The bishop on b3, like white's got many opportunities here. I think he kind of rushed it last time. You should probably wait for b4 to play knight d5, but he's going for this. And now, question: do you take with a bishop? Take with the pawn? He's taking with the pawn. That was sort of my recommendation before. I mean, with white, just to keep some more pieces on the board, have the bishop pair, dynamic position. Although it's not that dynamic with two pieces traded off. It seems pretty clear that if black can trade off a little bit more, he should be quite okay. So f4 is a good decision to not trade the bishop pair off. Now maybe bishop e3, queen f3. I like that setup. Bishop e3, queen f3. Okay, bishop d2 also possible. Players even on time so far, but this is a critical point for Ali Morandi. If he cannot lose with white like he did last game, because he's already down a game. I think a 2-point lead headed into 3-2 time control is going to favor Safarli. Keep in mind, Morandi's generally been the quicker player in his matches. He's generally done well on time. In 3-2, you cannot flag as much. You cannot put as much pressure on the clock. And generally, higher rated players, I mean stronger players, have more of an advantage in 3-2 over 3-0. There's usually less upsets, less variance, more time for technique, and more positional chess. It's just generally like that, not always like that, but I think it does help the lower rated player to have no increment. Rook e1, so playing for, queen takes d5, bishop e4, and you lose a rook, so maybe g4, g5 here. It looks like it might be played. I wouldn't be surprised to see g4, g5. looks like a really good way to try to put pressure on black. Bishop e4 first, defending d5. That makes a lot of sense. You need to keep that pawn. It does control c7, d6, win some space, and g4 played. And he's up 20 seconds. Ali Morandi playing exactly how he should. Open up the position, keep everything on the board. Bishop c1, easy stuff. b4 now, I'm expecting. Although, but then g5 though looks very dangerous. I'm really starting to favor White's position. Bishop h7 check. You can play king f8, so it's not winning like it is in other tactics. G5 played first. This is looking very, very risky for black. I mean, looks like you're just getting checkmated. Altash Safarli down 30 seconds and down in position here. He's got a full point lead in the match right now, 2.5, 1.5. But Ali Morandi is playing like he should in a must-win game. He is going for checkmate as he should. This is King G2. Move away from the checks, move on a light square. King H1 is maybe better because Rook F8. Then the king on G2, there's no Queen F2 or Rook F2 check after Rook F8. So after King H1, Rook F8, you can just play Queen H5, Queen H3 maybe, Queen H3, Queen H5. All of those are playable. And the next move might be, so let's say Rook F2 now. There's a checkmate. Queen H7, King F8, Queen H8, King E7, Queen E8 check, King F6, Queen F7 check is mate. You might try that anyways with Rook F2, but there is a checkmate. The king can only run to F6, and then there's an F7 mate. So we might see that on the board. I don't see a way to stop checkmate here. I believe Safarli is going down, and we have a tied match after 5 games, if unless there's some savior here. But it looks like a forced checkmate, and we are going to see exactly what I said happen on the board. It's your only try. He actually just resigned. And 2.5, 2.5. And I believe we changed the time control. But wow. So 4 decisive games and 1 draw. The first game was a draw. Since then, the players have rotated, winning and losing. We're having a break of 3 minutes. And then the next time control. 3 minutes with 2-second increment. 5 games of that. If it's tied after 10 games, we'll have 2 tiebreak games with 3-minute and 2-second increment. So 3-minute break right now, and then we have a new time control and 5 more games. We're starting in 1 minute to see who's going to win the 2017 ICC Open. Don't think we could ask for anything better than a tied match with 5 games remaining. But yeah, I really don't know who's going to win. It's we'll have to see who keeps their nerves in line. In 3-2, the game is much different though, so it's gonna be a big adjustment. You really do have to play generally higher quality chess in 3-2. So the games have started once again. ICC final between Altaj Safarli, a grandmaster from Azerbaijan, and Ali Marandi, an international master from Turkey. And we have a essentially like a Trompovsky, although a different move order. D4, D5, Bishop G5. I believe that's something I've seen Mamedyarov played. That I've seen him play at a colleague and national team member of Azerbaijan with Safarli. So maybe they've looked at this, but I can already say I actually like White's position. That bishop on H4. I mean, maybe you go Bishop G3 here, then you play C4. I like that diagonal. It definitely looks like a Mamedyarov opening when you play Bishop G5 when there's a knight on G8. Knight C3. Okay, maybe Bishop E2 stopping Knight H5. You do want to keep that dark squared bishop. Yeah. Probably castle at this stage. So we have a bit of a structure here where, I mean, it revolves around the d5 pawn. If black can maintain that d5 pawn, he's got a space advantage. But white's going to look to chip away at it. Maybe some French ideas like f3, maybe a3, then b4, then b5, trying to attack the c6 pawn, which in turn will, is defending the d5 pawn. So trying to break the pawn structure down from the back. We'll have to see. But Safarli's up 20 seconds. I'm not going to mention time as much during these games because I don't think time, when you have increment, if you have 5 seconds in a winning position, if you have 2-second increment, that should be enough to win the game. So it dramatically changes some evaluations. What might be lost in a 3-0 game might be winning in a 3-2 game. That's the difference. You have enough time to checkmate. So queen d1, I'm expecting potentially f3, b6, a nice counterattack. Black's maintained that d5 pawn. Clearly after c5, black has to be happy. Queen on a6 is nice, controls that whole diagonal. Okay, it looks like a bishop, but black has to be happy with the opening so far. The only problem is rook b8 is not possible, so maybe you want to put your rook on b7 if you can. But like pawns on the right color for black. White's main trump here is the c-file. Besides the c-file, the knight on d2 is not particularly good. Bishop on g3 does a good job, but it feels like the pawns are where they should be for black, on the light squares, opposite of his bishop. White's probably going to make some space for his king at some point, or reroute that knight maybe to c3. That looks possible. Knight b1, knight c3 looks like a possibility here as well. And he's done it. Yep. Because if you play f3, you do really weaken the e3 square, but otherwise your knight doesn't have any squares to go to. So Safarli looking to reroute, but I would say black has to be happy with the outcome. He's preparing to play knight b6, knight c4, which is a great outpost. Fantastic move by Marandi. It's a simple move, but as I said, he just tries to improve his pieces. Doesn't go for huge complications. He's been just getting good positions and milking them pretty effectively so far. And after knight c4, it looks like, I mean, I have to say, I think white is really struggling here. I mean, so rook c2, knight c4, preparing, you get your rook on the b file. This is very, very tough for white. Not lost or anything like that, but clearly the momentum is, oh, look at that. Just when I was saying that, he has used tactics to, I think, fix his position. If they're trade-off knights, it's a huge benefit for white because knight on c4 was a very dangerous outpost. Knight on c3 was not. So now queen a6, rook takes b2 is possible, although the a3 pawn is still pretty soft. Otherwise, if you allow the knight to go back to c4, it's going to hit a3 anyways. Okay, so now knight d3 gets trapped potentially by just rook c3 or king f1, king e2. Knight d3, king f1 potentially here. Maybe c5 for black or rook b6. Rook b6 is a good move to then cover the b2 square. So here, I mean, Safarli he can play rook c2 if he wants. He's down 30 seconds. He could actually get ambitious. If he believes the knight is trapped on b2, he might play for a win here. Might bring the king into e2, covering the d3 square. Might play rook b1. I'm not sure. c6 is weak. Rook on c8 can't easily defend the knight on b2. So even though the pawn's in the wrong color for white, that knight on b2 might actually be in trouble. So rook a2, okay. If rook b6, maybe king f1, king e2, and then prepare rook c2. Wouldn't be surprised to see that. And he's done it, but he's taking a lot of time. I think he's going for it, but he's taking a lot of time in doing so. And now black's accepting an isolated pawn, but now the knight has c4 to come back to. So you know you're not going to lose your knight because you were greedy. King e2 seems to be expected here. Oh, bishop e5 first. Nothing wrong with that. Knight takes c4, rook c2, wins a pawn, although a3 is hanging, but the bishop is on e5. That was a good placement by Safarli. Black's got the outside pass pawn. Definitely better here. The only risk is, overextending. Maybe, I mean, if you push the pawn incorrectly to the wrong square or something, but it's possible that white can bring the king in and capture it. But he's up a minute. Ali Miranda here, definitely pressing. Playing f6, going to walk the king along the light squares, f7, e6, d5. He's doing very, very well here. Usually the outside pass pawn is an advantage in these endgames. So at this point, black needs to put his pawns on light squares. h5, f5, g6, things like that. No, there's no... I'm a bit surprised by repeating here, if that's the case. I am quite surprised by that result. He's up on time, but I guess he felt draw was good. I think black can push there. I mean, based on the clock, based on outside pass pawn. That's surprising, but there we go. 3-3, guys. Still tied. And Safarli now. I think he's pretty relieved with that result, actually. I think black could have pushed. And they are repeating what they've been playing the entire match, so playing the same way as they've been playing in 3-0. Actually, this is the exact same, but Safarli deviates with knight takes d5 instead of bishop takes d5. What do you guys think? What do you think of that last position? Up a minute on the clock, do you maybe save some energy, or do you go for it? I mean, time advantage isn't worth as much in 3-2, but it seemed like black could have played without risk. And that's always important. Doesn't look like white has any advantage here. I mean, the d5 pawn doesn't restrict any of black's pieces. 3 pieces have been traded off, if anything. I mean, Yeah, this is just completely equal. Are they headed to like, we're going to have like, this looks like it might be a quick draw. I'm not sure what's going on, but in some positions I would be concerned as white about my d5 pawn. And now the king can go to d6. That was a huge benefit for black to, his king's going to d6. That looks like an excellent square. Morandi is playing this way too quickly, way too relaxed in my opinion. He's getting ready to play maybe f4 or something, but who arrives first? And I think it is, oh, he'll be right in time. So e4, king f2, king e7, king e3, king d6, king d4, he's in time. Otherwise, that was getting dangerously close to being a tough endgame. So both players here have pawns on, let's say, the wrong color that are susceptible to being captured. A6, f5 for black. D5 is a big one for white, and that's why he played b4, so black's king can't maybe go to c5 in some positions. Now he's getting ready to push his king to d4. But my question is, what happens if just bishop b7, sorry, bishop c8, bishop b7, or bishop e8, bishop f7? White's idea is to play c4. And the idea of c4 is black will always have to defend a6. So if black goes for d5, you'll lose a6, which is an outside pass pawn. So c4 is the idea here. So bishop c8, c4, b takes c4, bishop takes c4, bishop b7, and black has to defend a6. So now capture, and now bishop b5. Bishop d3. You can't capture because then you can't trade off bishops because d5 falls. So bishop b3, and now king. Okay, so king f2, bishop e4 is the threat. So white has to play a3. No, that's a mistake because now after bishop c4, this bishop takes d5 and a2 is hanging. No, that's a mistake. That is a mistake. Now black is up a pawn. No, he had to play bishop c4 immediately. Black is up a pawn here, and despite being down a minute, it's only black who should be playing in this position. Still, lots of drawing chances, of course. It's not easy to push as black. f5 is a target. Pawn structure is not pretty, but he's the one who should be playing for the win here. And only black. Good job by Morandi to play bishop c4 finally, keeping the bishop on b7. Now, this actually might be headed towards a draw pretty quickly. h4, f4. Very hard for black to create a passed pawn. Without a passed pawn, the bishop on c4 and pawn on b4 creates a barrier, restricting black's king from coming into the position. So I think white's actually just going to simply shuffle. Black wants to play king b6 and a5 so that he doesn't have to continuously defend this a6 weakness, and he's done it. So now we're probably going to transition to, if we transition to a bishop endgame, all pawns on the same side, that should be a draw. So black's chances are in this, c pawn against a pawn, keeping at least the pawn on the queen side. Again, though, black's extra pawn isn't actually felt because black does not have a passed pawn. So this should still be a draw. I'm trying to think of how black wins this, and I don't see it yet. So I still think this is likely a draw, but Safrali can still push. Just that he doesn't really, the position doesn't, he doesn't have it doesn't feel like he has an extra pawn right now because his king side is restricted by this h4, f4 setup. And now bishop e4, bishop d7 check. Oh, Safrali's going for it. That was a nice move, king b5. He's willing to sacrifice that pawn in order to get his king to c4. Black didn't allow it. White didn't allow it. Yeah. The match is tied. People just tuning in. Safrali offers a draw. The match is tied right now. 3-3. And they've agreed to a draw, so it's 3.5, 3.5 with 3 games remaining. It's down to the wire. I mean, these players seem very evenly matched. Ali Morandi doing a good job that game, holding it. That opening, he might want to switch. He's not getting much of an advantage in some of these positions. But 3.5, 3.5. Any win now might be decisive. So game 8, Altaj Safarli playing white against Ali Morandi of Turkey. And they're repeating a French they've had before. Actually, Morandi scored a decisive win as black in the French earlier in the match. And they play a different variation here. So far, yeah, as I said, I think it's very evenly matched. Clearly, it's not like one player is getting a big time edge or taking advantage of blunders. It seems both players have shown up today with a lot of tools. Here we go. 1 sec. Here we go. Sorry. That is game 8. It didn't show up on the screen. Apologies for that. Now we have it on the screen. It was a French, but a different position here with a fianchetto. So this is a line where black prepares to play f6 and uses the fianchetto bishop to put pressure on d4. At the same time, e6 will then be pretty weak. So here, maybe bishop e3 or bishop c2. Okay, b2 is hanging, but in blitz, you have to be a bit practical, and risking your queen might be a bit too risky. So right now, 3.5, 3.5. Any win might be decisive at this point because the players are drawing a few times. Games are pretty tight, so any decisive win here. First to 5.5. So remember, after 10 games, if it's tied, we do have tie breaks. Knight g3 maybe, queen e2 possibly. I'm not going to play h4 yet because I might as well develop this knight on f1 before actually attacking. I need to position my pieces properly. One thing I want to do is if black plays knight bishop d7, I might throw in knight e5 right away. So maybe knight g3 here. I think Safarli's deciding, do I sacrifice the b2 pawn? He's been allowing it, but maybe now now that he has some time, he's thinking maybe I should defend it first and then attack. Why risk my opponent taking a pawn? So he does go queen d2. And the idea is after knight e4, you can take with white and then play maybe d5. Maybe the tactics work after d5. So, knight g4. Big move. If white loses that dark square bishop, it might destabilize his pawn center. I mean, that d4 pawn might be a lot weaker without that dark squared bishop. So knight g4, you can't move it though. If you move it to g5, d4 is hanging. Black's got 3 pieces attacking it. In fact, black is even attacking d4 right now in some lines. If you're playing black here, you do have to be a bit careful. Bishop on d7 on c8 hasn't been developed, so you don't want to be too aggressive without developing. You want to take what you can without risking, and I think he has. e5, guys. Ali Morandi here is up 1 minute and 20 seconds, and he's got a pretty nice looking position, if I may say so. White e3 pawn is weak, lacks the 2 bishops, lacks a clear plan here, and just very passive. This is looking very pleasant for black. But bishop e6, he just got the 2 bishops. He's got a d5 weakness, but white has an e3 weakness, and the position is open, so the bishops are definitely better. Black might be playing bishop h6 in some variations. He's up 1 minute and 20 seconds. I would say this is a very comfortable advantage for Ali Morandi here with black. As the match is going down to the wire, he agreed to a draw a few games ago in what I thought was an advantageous position. This game, I think he's out for blood and he's looking to convert h5. He's ready to play h4, kick that knight away from g3, force it to h1 or f1. Those are awful squares. This is getting better and better for black. He's playing very, very well here. This is not a pretty position for white. All your pieces on the back rank. This e3 pawn is so incredibly weak, and black just has so much more space to play with this excellent knight on e5. So potentially h4 here to fix the pawns, but no need. Black plays king h7, king h1. They trade off, although I think a king on h7 is a lot safer than a king on h1. As I said, I think black has a big, big edge here right now, and this is a golden opportunity for black to take the lead in the match. b3, covering his bases, making sure the queen now on d2 doesn't have to tie itself down to protection of that pawn. Rook d7. So it seems like black is content with sort of like waiting, making small moves, improving slowly. And it makes a lot of sense because what does... Okay, queen c2 threatening bishop takes h5 sometimes. Is he going to go for bishop takes h5? He does. So what's more important? Probably the e-pawn, but I think white is very happy to have gotten rid of that e-pawn in some ways, because that was just a huge weakness. That's probably a favorable exchange, but nevertheless, black now has a passed pawn. And as a result, better position, just d4, d3 here. Maybe queen e4, I'm expecting next. Queen e4. Okay, white's looking to trade off some pieces, because with the pieces on the board, black can just shove that pawn. So queen e4, knight's going to go from h2 to f3. Definitely white's improved his position in the last few moves, because now the knight, if it can trade off for black's great knight on e5, that's a good trade-off. Look at the clocks, by the way. Is rook e7 working? Rook takes d4, rook takes e4, rook takes d6, rook e1 check, king h2, bishop f4, wins for black. And you can't take on d4 with the queen because of rook e1 check. So tactics by Ali Maradi, big tactics. Some big tactics here. Queen d3, rook e1 check again. So you can't take with a queen, rook, and opposite bishop on the board. That d pawn is the best thing. This is looking very, very bad for Safarli, because that pawn is going to go to d2, and on d2 it's going to be permanently protected by that bishop on h6. We are getting very close to a lost position for white here. Rook e1, not yet, because b7's hanging, so you want to cover your bases first. There's no rush. That d2 pawn is staying there forever. Cover your weak pawns, make sure your king is safe, and then position your rook aggressively. And he's going for the endgame here. Now, endgames with opposite bishops, well, there's still rooks on the board, so it's still playable. So king f2. I wouldn't have traded queens. That seems like a peculiar decision, because king safety favored black, I believe, with a more aggressive position. So keep the queens on the board. But it seems like he has a specific idea. He's gonna no, this is king is going to e5. This is Ali Marandi here is in full control. Very impressive. He's just gonna walk the king to c2. He's like, even in endgame, because there's rooks on the board, that bishop on f3, that rook on e1 controls not only the rook on d1, but the bishop on f3. So in this position, black is essentially playing up a bishop, because white is completely tied down. Take on h5, then g6. Gets a little bit iffy here. Good move, good move. g7 is playable. Then rook e8. Ooh, rook e8's possible. What? That's just rook e8? That's just a blunder by Safarli. Oh, wow. Ali Marandi, I mean, he's up a minute on the clock, and he just completely, I mean, outplayed Safarli in that French middle game there. He won the bishop pair, played e5. That's very impressive. Good technique, good speed, good opening. He's played a couple excellent games in the French. That's his second win this match with the French. And now he's up 4.5, 3.5 with only 2 games remaining. This is game 9 out of 10-game match, ICC Open 2017, the finals. There's $4,200 available. That's first prize, and second is $2,200. So you're looking to double up. You got to win first. And some just extremely powerful games by Ali Marandi so far. So we have a little bit of a different position than normal. The knight's usually on c3 in this match. Now it's on f3. More pieces on the board. I mean, Safarli needs to win either now or the next game. But might as well keep the possibilities open right now. If he can win now, he'll have white in the final game. So 4.5, 3.5. First one to 5.5 wins. It means that Ali Marandi can become champion with a win this game. and he has played extremely impressively, if I may say so. In his good games, he plays strong tactically. He's always doing well on the clock for the most part, and he's shown some good technique as well in holding positions and in converting. So here, White can claim a bit of a space advantage with his e4 pawn. He's playing around at knight d4, knight c6, knight f5, all in the air. You can't be too relaxed as black here because maybe h3 or f3 is coming, and where do you put that light squared bishop? You need to control f5. Knight f5 would be very dangerous. You cannot allow knight f5. Right now you can allow it because the bishop's covering it, but for example, if queen d7, maybe move like h3, and where does that bishop go? e6, very passive. Definitely a passive position for black right now. This expansion on the queen side hasn't really resulted in any extra space. All his pieces are sort of bundled up on the E and the D files. So he's not this queenside space advantage or expansion didn't really address the problems in the center, where White's just like, I'm going to put my pieces centralized. I'm going to play. So now maybe bishop f4, get ready to play e5, open up the diagonals. Prefer White's position here so far, and he's up 26 seconds. It's the story of the match. Very consistent that he's up on time. Queen b6, preparing maybe rook d8, getting his rook into the game. I don't like this. The bishop on h4 is pretty annoying, so I think black's going to have to address that at some point, move the knight out of the way. Because your rook on e8, I mean, it wants to hit e4, it wants to put some pressure on the center, and with the bishop on e7, it's not really doing that. So yeah, it looks like he's trying to alleviate the pressure. Knight d5, trade that off. Although the d6 pawn is weak. I mean, positionally speaking, this is just, if we get an endgame or something like that, d6 is the biggest weakness on the board. Safari's improved the knight to f4, gotten the bishop to g5, a lot more double edge now, but he's down 35 seconds. A3 played quickly. The knight on f4 definitely opens up the tactical possibilities, so I think White's looking to get rid of that knight on f4. Maybe not in a huge rush because there's no immediate threat, but if you're black, you gotta get rid of this d6 weakness, and that'll also open up the position. You want to play d5 on a good day. So the question is, can you play d5? If you can't, you are going to suffer in some endgames here, where everything is equal except you have this d6 weakness. Safari thinking how to keep the possibilities alive here. I mean, knight e2 threatens the d6 pawn and it attacks the knight. So a big decision. And he goes for it. He is going to sacrifice a pawn. Knight d3. He's going to get the bishop pair and open up some lines. Maybe bishop e6 now, bishop c4. Bold decision, and I like it. I like that decision. Bishop c4 looks like a fantastic square. He needed to, keep possibilities. Bishop c4 runs into knight c6. So every time, great move. This knight d4 is a great move. I mean, you don't want to play bishop d7. Wow. Ali Morandi, and how quickly he found knight d4, guys. I mean, that is pretty impressive. Now queen g1, maybe d5 here, but then rook e d1. Lots of trades are happening, and there's opposite bishops. So queen a4, rook e to d1. After queen b3, you just put a rook on d2. White's going to play h3 at some point to give the king some breathing room on h2, which is a dark square, which is totally safe. At this point, if you're playing white, you know all the dark squares are safe, and all the light squares might be a bit iffy, but the dark squares are safe. You play h3, he's done it. He's playing all the right moves. Very strong tactical solution so far, and you got to say white is significantly preferable here on the clock. It's got an extra time. There's no reason for white to not be very happy with his current situation. If he wins this game, guys, he becomes the ICC Open champion. So d5 finally played. I mean, black was sort of running out of moves, but d5 is important. That d6 pawn has been a thorn in his position for the entire game. White has a couple options here. Rook e to d1 looks like a great way to trade off pieces, though, and he's done it. He's still up 40 seconds, playing very confidently. Queen on b3 is offside, by the way. Okay, so I believe you can just simply take on d5 and play queen g3 after rook e2, or queen d4. And I don't see the tactics. There's no rook e4, f3 does a great job, and white is ready to push that d pawn to d7. I believe Ali Morandi here is on fire. I mean, he is seeing everything. He is about to become the ICC champion unless Altash Safarli, with 20 seconds on the clock, finds a solution to this d-pawn running down the board. He doesn't have any threats against white's king. His queen on b3 is completely offside. This looks like he's in complete control here. Rook d5 is threatening, maybe queen d1 in some lines. Wow. Ali Morandi sacrifices the queen and plays d7. What a move. What a move. Now bishop f7 maybe. Bishop f7 might be forced. You cannot allow white to recapture on d5 and have that d7 pawn. Bishop f7 looks forced, or bishop c6. But that's two rooks against the queen. However, king safety matters when you evaluate that, and the time. What that means is white is going to double rooks on the 7th rank, and I don't see how you stop that. So rook e7, and now rook d2 to d7 is what he wants. If you achieve that, you are completely winning. But the queen on b3 is definitely worse than the two rooks here. Plus, white's king is very safe. So, for example, if you put your bishop on g3, covering your king's diagonal, and you double your rooks on the 7th rank, there's no way that black can stop the pressure on g7. However, a draw doesn't win, so if the queen neutralizes the two rooks, a draw still keeps chances alive for Altash Safarli, but it's not looking good. King g6 now. Maybe rook c7. Queen on b3 is so offside. Rook e2 to e7 is a threat. Bishop e6 might be forced. No. Now rook e7. What's the idea here? Rook takes g7 looks like it's winning. Ali Morandi is now completely winning after rook takes g7. Safe king, material edge, and rook takes here. Rook g. Now queen f4 is his idea. Don't blunder a check, but if he plays this properly, he is winning, and he'll be a champion. He did miss some moves so far. h5, and he's found h5. Clutch move from Safarli. But rook h7 does win that pawn. No, it's going to be rook h6. Oh, c4 check is a blunder. He's blundered. c4 check, king takes d4. A blunder by Ali Morandi. He thought he had c4 check, but with a discovered attack on the queen. But king takes d4. Look at that. Altash Safarli now has the outside a pawn. It's going to be a race. It's a bishop and rook and h pawn against the queen. This is very unclear, but a perpetual still keeps Safarli in the game. Is he going to go for a win? Is he going to go rook g4, h6, g3, or king h3? No, the time situation here is still very bad for black. He's got to find a move. He plays that quickly, but h7. h7. What happens after h7, guys? Looks like it's a queen. He's got a queen. Oh, what a precise move. King h2. Ali Morandi is winning here, and he becomes the ICC Open champion. Wow. Even despite blundering, he still converted that very nicely and scores a huge upset win over Safarli. Wins the match 5.5 to 3.5. I do not believe we play the 10th game. Hopefully we'll be able to interview the players after the match. Wow, that was a very, very nice game. He didn't allow Safarli any chances to win.
Hi.
Hey. So I believe that is it, and maybe we'll get a few comments from the players. Ali, are you there? Wow, that was a very, very Ali?
Can you hear me?
Hear me?
Yes, I'm there. I'll just plug my headphones
Okay.
and yeah. Yeah. Can you hear now?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect.
It's all good. So, congratulations. I mean, I have to say, extremely impressive games. I finally got to commentate on them today. Yesterday, I missed most of your matches, but um, what's the secret? Have you been in shape lately, practicing a lot, or just feeling good?
Well, I actually feel good, and recently in August, I moved to St. Louis, and
Yeah,
I'm playing for the SLU chess team, and I
yeah,
actually believe I've improved my skills after August, and like there's a lot of support, and I think this helped me a lot, and I boosted my confidence, I would rather
yeah.
say.
No,
Um,
I mean, your time management was very good. You were almost never in time trouble.
Well, the funny thing is, I also play very quickly in classical games. I almost not think in my moves, which is not the best thing to do, but in
Yeah.
blitz events, it's helpful sometimes. So, especially in the 3+2 section, it's helped me a lot, I think, to keep my time more.
Yeah, no, it was definitely good. Is Ali what I should call you, or Semil, or I?
My actual name is Jamil Jan, but here in St. Louis, they call me JJ, which is like an
JJ.
easier version for everyone to pronounce.
Yeah.
And I believe it will be worldwide known like that as
Okay.
JJ.
So
So
JJ.
yeah, you can call me JJ.
That's cool. There's a TV series called Westworld, and the director is called JJ as well. One of my favorite series, so it's a good name. So
Okay.
okay, I'll use JJ. So out of you played, I think five matches or six. So what did you have any one where you really felt you were lucky, or that was the most difficult by far, or
I
walk
actually
us through the
think
tournaments? Yeah.
the first game was the toughest for me. I was playing Grandmaster Ituzaga,
Mm.
and I was actually completely worse in both games where I was playing white. But I was lucky that he actually blundered an exchange in the third game, and also in the first one he blundered his like he got a worse endgame suddenly where there was actually nothing wrong with his position. So after being able to win against Grandmaster Terzaga,
Yeah.
I believed I could uh, keep on going because it was an upset which made me motivated to play against other strong players. And after I won the next two rounds, it was easier for me to play today with motivation at least.
Yeah, how was it playing a teammate? You beat a Torrezega 2.5 half, which is he's a very good blitz player. That's already a big upset. Then you had to play Rambaldi, who is a teammate of yours, right?
Yeah, he's actually my roommate. Like, no, there is like a restroom in between, so the rooms are not actually connected. We were playing at different ends of the rooms, and it was pretty interesting to play him. But I believe I was lucky to like
You
go.
won 3-0, but you guys probably play for fun and you train together, so you know each other very well.
Yeah,
That
we know each other very well, and he was not playing the best of his chess, and I was lucky me.
It seems like and out of all the players in the tournament, you were the maybe one of the only players who didn't have to go to tie breaks. You then beat Musard, who had just beaten Grishuk, 2.5 half very comfortably. Uh,
Yeah,
and
and the third round against Mustard, I was actually very lucky that we got in two of my preparations, actually, opening preparations. The first one I played the same against Ralph Mamedov in actually a classical game. I was clearly better, but we ended up having a draw and an agreement because it was a team competition.
mhm.
So I was lucky that he fell in one of the main traps of the line. And after that, there was like a solid draw with black, and the third game it just fell apart.
Yeah, no, it seemed like it was something you knew very well based on how quickly you played and confidently. And then today you did go into tie breaks. You played against Artemiev, who's known as one of the best young players and blitz players in the world. That went into tie breaks. Did you feel any differently there? Anything about that match? If I
Well,
recall, you were getting very nice positions as white against him, and then with
yeah,
black, I
I
guess.
lost the first game actually, which was not as planned. But
Yeah.
then, after coming back, I felt I can maybe
That was the first
take the
game you
game to the
lost.
tie breaks. Yeah.
That was the only game you lost at that point. You didn't lose
Oh,
yesterday, which was
yeah.
crazy.
That's right. Yes.
So
And after losing, I needed to come back, certainly. But after coming back, I felt better. But playing a tie breaks is tougher because we have only 2 games to like play. We cannot really make up for any loss. So it was a decisive one, but I don't think I've played any like terrible chess. At least I did my best. And
yeah, and against Safrali, did you mouse slip in that one game with White?
the point is, I play like bullets sometimes very
Yes.
often on
Yes.
ICC or
Yeah.
any other site, and the settings were set to smart move. And once by mistake I hit the e pawn and automatically went to e5 because that's the only available square. Like I was expecting d5 and I was trying to take ed and my mouse was on the e
Ah,
pawn, but I clicked on it and it automatically went to e5 as there are no other squares for the pawn. And of course, pawn down is
no, of course, you
yeah.
still almost held that. But yeah, that was unfortunate because you had won a really nice game in the Tarash right before you games in the French against Safarli, who's actually considered, pretty. That's an opening he knows very well, and you scored 2 big wins with Black.
Yeah, we have actually played together in Dubai Open last year, and he played knight c3. So I was kind of surprised when he played knight d3 and to play the isolated pawn. But I assume, and it's correctly assumed, that I checked the line. Of course, we have played together in the Open, so he probably wanted to have like a slow grind. But yeah, I know the positions sort of quite good. So
So I mean, after this, I mean, when uh, when I was trying to get my norms and get the GM title, when I started playing really well in Blitz, I wanted to play classical tournaments. Do you have that same feeling right now? I mean, your confidence must be pretty much at an all-time high to play a bit.
yeah, this is actually the best probably I have performed ever, and
Yeah.
I'll be playing classical events. I'm not sure if they're directly related because classical chess is not the same as blitz because opponents have more time to like consider and evaluate everything. But of course, I feel very motivated even to like play against these players and actually score the wins in even in a blitz event.
Hmm.
Especially when it is 3+2, it's tougher to beat very strong grandmasters because there's an increment.
And that's actually where
Yeah.
you won the match, was in 3+2. So that was extremely impressive to
Yeah,
me.
the
That
last game I actually blundered that I cannot play c4 check, and
yeah.
the things turned out to be bad. But I was lucky that he didn't actually have time to.
He didn't have time. Maybe you're still winning. I thought you played the last game very nicely. You just didn't allow him really counterplay to try to. You played, yeah. You played quick and you traded off some key pieces, but you didn't really allow. One thing I noticed is you hardly ever. I mean, obviously you're experienced in this, but you hardly ever made big mistakes. The only time was when. I mean, you took advantage of a lot of mistakes from your opponent. You played quickly. You waited for mistakes. You played positions you knew. You didn't really ever. You hardly ever spend a minute on a move. Your practical decision making seemed to be on point, like your instincts, like your game against Artemiev. He just blundered a piece. You were just seemed like you definitely hardly ever. If you blundered, it would be like a pawn at most or like a position, but you never really. Make a game-ending blunder. It's always like you make a small mistake and then you just play as if nothing happened and just put pressure on your opponent's time and things like that. It seemed like the instincts were very, very on point during the tournament.
Yeah, these skills I try to like improve, and I try to work on the intuition part, especially when you're playing blitz. You just more or less play the first move which comes to your mind, and this affects me in classical chess as well.
Mm-hmm.
I generally tend to play the first moves which come to my mind, but not often they're right. But in blitz, I just try to just play it and then let's see what happens. Okay, I made slight inaccuracies probably, or many
Right,
big ones.
right.
Sorry. But like the last one, I blundered the whole rook by taking on d5, but it was not so bad after all because I had a lot of pieces.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, it turned out to be lucky.
Well, that's so. Right now, you're a student, right?
Yes, I'm a computer engineering student and I'm a freshman. Hopefully, it will all end in like 2 or 3 weeks, and then I'll be free for summer
Yeah, then
and
then you'll
play
be able to
chess.
play some chess. Are you gonna stay in North America?
I'll be moving. I will go to Europe for the European individual. So,
Okay. Oh, so that's your next big tournament then.
next big tournament is a invitational event in St. Louis.
Ah,
Uh,
okay.
and
I will
then
see you
I,
there. Yeah.
yeah, and then I'll be going to Minsk directly.
That's well, no, I mean this is out of all the times they've held the ICC Open, this is definitely one of the biggest in a way upset results based on, you know, your I don't know if an IM has won before, but also I mean the way you did it was exceptional because you were winning, you were leading every single match for the most part, and hardly lost. So I didn't know about it before. I mean, I haven't seen many of your Blitz games, or we haven't played too much, but definitely very impressive. And
Thank you.
wish you good luck in your next tournaments, and we'll be hearing from you more, I'm sure, after this. So if you have any last comments, but otherwise, you've been playing 2 days of Blitz, and you're still so. Better give
Yes,
you
I
some time to
actually played
relax.
another rapid event last night in the St. Louis Chess Club. So I've been playing chess a lot
A
these,
lot.
yeah, 2 days.
You're fresh. All right. Well, congratulations once again. That was very smooth, very impressive, and uh, it's a good prize as well for a Blitz event.
Yeah,
There's a 40,
I agree. Yeah,
4,200. So
yeah,
you'll be able to treat yourself to something nice for that. So thanks, JJ, and
yeah. Thank you, Eric.
yeah, I'll be seeing you next month. I'll be in St. Louis as well. So
Oh, perfect.
good luck.
Yeah,
Good luck
thank
with
you.
your studies until then.
Thanks. See you there.
See you there.